Welcome to another edition of the Bandwagon Podcast. And today, finally, after weeks and months maybe of trying to and fro in a WhatsApp, honestly, this guy is so busy. I just don't know how he does it. Welcome to the podcast, Prash Suthersan.
Thank you. How's it going?
I was going to say Sudarshan or do it that way, but then I just thought I'll probably be a bit polite in that way.
The accessible way for most of the listeners, I think that's...
You know something? That's probably the most diplomatic way of saying it, accessible.
We have to be really diplomatic in this game, so I've had to learn all the buzzwords, you know?
Yeah. It was funny because we were just saying that I was literally lying down and saw the message coming up. I was watching King Kong versus Godzilla with my son, and I thought, yeah, let's just get it down, because I think I was like the first time I seen this promoter going, I've just finished the tour, and I was like, fucking hell, it's just his own tour, really.
Yeah.
forget the artist and like how busy you've been doing it. So you've just done the Prophecy tour, is that right? Yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
And then how was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, amazing experience. It was actually originally booked in 2020, or to happen in 2020 in April. But that was, just after the pandemic, real lockdowns came into place nationally. So it's been postponed twice now. So yeah, a lot of stress to get to this point, especially if you imagine how long there was planning prior to actually putting out in the first place. So this conversation and this tour has been in the head since, late 2019, maybe. So to have it finally actually done is amazing. The shows themselves went great. I was looking for the sort of right artist for us to because this is our first actual tour as a team, like bringing the artists physically over, touring them, that sort of thing. And yeah, I mean, it's been a really rewarding experience, and I'd envisioned doing a tour with the sort of artists that I feel I'm passionate about, whether it's their music or the artistry or whatever. And Prophecy was someone I had pegged for a long time, and sort of began the conversations with this team off the back of the sort of Gary Sandu tour that I did with E3 UK. And yeah, things just sort of fell into place. They were pretty easy to get on with and sort of have open chats with, what do we want to do? Forget the money for a second or whatever it's about. What do you conceptually want to achieve, which is really, really important for us? How does it look? What sort of theming are we going for? That sort of thing. And then building it from there and building the ideas and, the money and the sort of, okay, what we, all of that sort of thing came after that, which kind of told me, okay, these are the right kind of people that we want to work with and the right kind of artist that has the mentality that we're looking for. So, I'm pretty picky when it comes to working with venues or artists or whoever it is. So it had to be the right one for us. He has been the right one for us. And, now it's in the rear view in a sense. I can say that it was a great decision from our team. It's been a really great experience. I was with him earlier this morning, just getting his PCR before he goes to fly back to Canada, and just, just general questions like, how's the feedback been your end and that sort of thing. And yeah, it's been a really great experience for everyone. And, now we just look forward.
I think post-pandemic, post-lockdown, let's say, Desibeatz, the whole branding has come out absolutely roaring. It's been relentless in the way that it's been. What do you attribute that down to?
Loads of factors, really. I think first and foremost, the general nightlife industry is sort of boomed again where there's quality, which is where I kind of tie in Crossroads is that we've sort of always aspired to provide quality within a reasonable price and, always sort of deliver the right sort of venues and shows and production and this and that or whatever. And I think that Crossroads, when things have opened back up again, people have sort of looked to, okay, where do I trust my first nightlife experiences back in this strange new world that we're in? Where do I want to go? And, it's like when you're looking for a takeaway on your Just Eat or Uber Eats, you're like, okay, which food is not going to upset my stomach today? What's the safe option?
Depends what time it is.
Yeah, depends what state you're in after a few glasses and that. But for me, I feel like when people kind of scroll their options with a name you recognize, with a name you trust, I mean, this is going to be our 15th year of doing this now. And I think that really counts for something, because most promoters or events are sort of flash in the pan. They come and they go, they try and make a quick buck. And I think there's something to say about staying power, about longevity. I feel like we've always tried to adapt and to people's demands. And, you know, when things open back up again, even for me, you know, I mean, I'm sure we'll go into it over this podcast, but, you know, myself and our team, we weren't really sure how the world was going to look after all of this. We weren't sure, you know, would we be going again? Will people be raring to go out? You know, what sort of fears are people going to have about that? And luckily, touch wood, you know, for the most part, yeah, I mean, there's still definitely that out there. And I feel like, considering how well we're doing, without all that pandemic stuff going on and the COVID and even the new variant and this and that that's coming, we'd probably be performing even better than we currently are. So the fact that we're doing well at the moment is really amazing. We don't take it for granted, and we're just going to sort of keep working hard to maintain that and sort of creep back up to the level that we expect to be at.
I mean, you just said it there in terms of there's two questions that I really want to ask you in terms of like you've been involved in it like 15 years, let's say. One was kind of relating back to the prophecy thing. Why was he the first artist for you to do a tour on, considering you've been there for that long and been successful?
Yeah.
And the second one was the pandemic the biggest challenge that you had in your promoting career?
Okay. All right. Well, the first question, why prophecy? I mean, I listen, in terms of music, I listen to everything. So house, R&B, garage, hip hop, pop, commercial, indie, like everything. And, you know, even getting into Desi music, like that wasn't my inroad into when I started promoting. Like I was doing other events and working on other types of brands and different types of music. And Desi sort of comes slightly in the middle or slightly after that, when I was a student, but I didn't really have a full appreciation for the music, and I only got to understand the culture pretty much over this 15 years of running the brand. And in doing that, I've been able to appreciate the good, bad, and ugly of all types of Punjabi music, whether it's Punjabi in the prophecy sense, or whether it's UK Bhangra, or whether it's even, you know, folk or whatever other styles there may be. And I just felt that when I looked at what artists are available who have worked with people already, who have toured, who hasn't toured, I knew that Prophecy had not toured yet. I felt like he wasn't really a club artist. He's not a club artist in any sense. He's really a true musician, produces and writes his own music, sings his own music. And I felt like that artist needs to be in the right setting. It's not bringing him over and putting him in a Liquid or an Oceana or how it used to be all back in the days. You know, not a knock on any of those clubs, but you know, certain types of artists don't really fit into that mold. And Prophecy, as we say, Senti, the king of Senti music, you know, you wouldn't expect to go and see him on your local dance floor. You're going to see him in an intimate environment. And
it's almost like an audience with kind of.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what it was. So we said an evening with the Prophecy. You're not coming out to come and rave hard, but I mean, we had we created a party within that setting, but a lot of it was to just sort of feel like you're in the room with the artist. And that's the sort of look we were trying to achieve, the sort of feel we were trying to achieve with the tour. And I just felt like the synergy between what he is stylistically and what we want to be, even like as music sort of transforms, you know, UK taste and the UK kids coming up now, they don't just listen to what we listened to when we were, you know, at uni anymore. Their music taste has transformed a lot, especially, you know, with the sort of UK urban culture and that sort of thing. And now they listen to R&B, to grime, to MCs, and they listen to The Weeknd, or they listen to, I don't know, you know, for me, I listened to, one of my favorite artists was Ryan Leslie, you know, sings, writes, produces his own music as well. And I just felt like Prophecy was like our version of Ryan Leslie, like someone who is just totally a real true artist down to the bones. And having worked with him now, you know, I first time an artist has actually taken rehearsal sessions that I've offered them, and we did 2 amazing rehearsal sessions with a full band. So we had, full band, but you know, we had keys, we had a keytar, key and guitar, and we had a drummer that flew in from Chicago as well. And that was the best part of it, because we were able to take people away from that club thing that they used to and put them back in front of a band, which is weird considering how popular bands were when we were at uni, or just prior, I would say. But now, you know, we want to show people that if you want to see your favorite artist, yeah, clubs are great. I have no knock on them. I do club nights myself, but you don't have to see every artist in a club setting. And some of the artists need to build back on their industry now, build back on their growing their fan bases and that sort of thing. And the only way you can do that is by showing you're an actual musician. So that's my opinion anyway.
So obviously that's taken a massive decision when you've come out, you know, through COVID and the lockdowns. But how close was it for you? I know we had several conversations, you know, during lockdown, you know, just general check-in to see how each of the words and especially from your side of it. And it was the first time I heard kind of stress in your in your voice, because you were one of the first kind of people that I ever reached out to have a conversation when I was involved in a little bit of music. And I just thought, if he, you sometimes you get those kind of canaries, and if they canary in a cave, and you think if they're doing it, if there's panic, then this is actual real shit. How close were you to see that your 15 years of going there to almost going under?
Pretty close. And it wasn't to do necessarily with, the financial implications, of course, were pretty awful. It was a terrible, let's say 2 years, more or less, 18 months. But really, it was just to do more with just the stress of like the anxiety and the not knowing, and the effect on your mental health, and the effect that has on everyone around you. And really, for me, I'm that kind of person. Like, I need to know what I'm doing, where I'm going. I like to be organized in my plans. And, of course, you're going to have speed bumps or whatever. But to a degree, when you take control of your own life, especially when you're a self-employed person, you're dictating the terms of your future, essentially. Your hard work means that you'll succeed. If you don't succeed, it's because there's been days where you've been lazy, and which days they were. Which days that you weren't on point, day that you didn't chase and do certain things and you weren't on it. And when you're self-employed, you can't be like that for one day, because there's always going to be someone ready to jump in your grave. So you've got to be on it at all times. And the pandemic took that away from most of us. It was saying, F you, whatever your plans are, I don't give a shit. Like, I am going to make you wait. And when I'm ready to let you get back on track, then you can get back on track. That was the hardest part for us. Like, I got COVID, I'm like many of us, I lost family and friends and blah, blah, blah to it. But the biggest stress for me was just really the complete anxiety of not knowing. Luckily, myself, my partner, whatever, we're pretty financially like sort of shrewd, and we're not extravagant people. So we'd saved enough, but we definitely took a dent in our savings. But we managed to survive just about. And now I just think about the fact that, look, we're going forward now. I think that the biggest learning curve from all the biggest learning point I got from everything was that I couldn't be the rigid person I was. Like, I love being like I said, everything's got to be my control, right? And my partner's the most laid back in comparison to me. He's the most like easygoing character, and I'm like the most stressful motherfucker ever. And I just had to be like, I had to turn it to him, and he was always like, bro, like, it's out of our control. Nothing we can do. We got to just sit tight, be patient, support each other through it. Like, I had him there in my corner. I had a couple of close friends and family in my corner, just sort of. And we managed to get through it together. And that's all I can say. Like, I'm just glad to have an amazing support unit around me. We have a great team in place, great DJs, great venue managers who are always like on the phone with us. What can we do? How can we adapt? Shall we do socially distanced brunches? Shall we? How can we play with the rules or bend ever so slightly to see that we can do some sort of business and survive? And we managed to do that. Like I said, we adapted through it. We did brunches and things like that, just to kind of make sure we had something to stay relevant and in the conversation. And as soon as we were able to get back, we bounced back straight away. So
yeah, I know, because we both have an interest into kind of like UFC and you're a bit like you like the bit of Dana Bhangra promoters at that point where you came out full firing. Your first gigs were massive straight away.
The UFC was really actually like, it was a great save for me as well, because they were doing events throughout the pandemic. They, found ways to adapt. They went to bloody Yaz Island and were doing events there. Okay, cool. We can't go to outsource venues. We'll go in our in-house, performance center and do events there. And that was even taking a note out of Dana White's book, just to be like, whatever it is, find a way to make it work. It's not going to be perfect. It ain't going to be ideal. Like, I feel like I enjoyed the fights without the fans, but like, nothing like having fans in an arena. Kind of the same way that, a virtual gig is fun, but there's nothing like a full dance floor at the end of the day. So, it's similar in many ways. And I just love seeing how they overcame everything. And, for us, we can only take lessons from loads of promoters, not just him, Eddie Hearn, like all these great promoters, man. Like, I know we do different types of things, but the skills that they put out there and the adaptability and all that sort of thing is really admirable.
Yeah, because they were just really determined just to find a way, because they knew things were just possible. It was just trying to find the right way and kind of forge it through. I just want to take you back in terms of like how and why did you start in this area? What was your interest?
Okay, so I mean, I was just a geeky kid straight out of secondary school. Went to university and had zero confidence pretty much. Like, I don't remember being a particularly confident or outgoing guy. I was friendly or whatever, had great friends and whatever, but was never like, I don't think you'd point at me and be like, that's the guy that goes clubbing or goes to that sort of thing. And I got to uni, first day of uni, literally ran into a promoter who was like, do you want to get paid to party? That buzzword. I was just like, yeah, I mean, that sounds great. I mean, I don't know anyone, don't know any girls, don't know any people, but sure, like, I'll try. And from there, started just sort of doing coaches from uni. I went to Hertfordshire Uni. We're doing coaches from there into London for just like, regular events. Worked with a company called PTL, who were really, really popular in London. And yeah, just going to all these famous clubs in the West End and Birmingham and Leicester. I remember going to like Creations, and I went to, I don't know, so many venues like Birmingham Works and the Works in Kingston and like everywhere, literally Ministry of Sound, all of those ones. And then whilst I was, I think towards the end of my first year of uni, I was approached by someone who worked with the SU, a guy called Chris, and he knew a friend of mine called Neil, who was like an older brother, and they were just like, look, we've got this Asian brand, it's not really doing anything, you're doing loads of parties off campus, why don't you see if you can work on this one? So I thought, yeah, why not? I knew only like a handful of people, like I knew Jags, Climax, from meeting him through my housemate, and I mean, he's more than enough really in terms of getting you into a straight introduction of what the hell that scene's about. So between him and a couple of others, sort of got my foot wet, going out there, promoting events like Desi, doing coaches for them, and just sort of getting a feel for what was going on and seeing what I liked, what I didn't like, and yeah, just sort of implementing that back. So started back at RSU. Desibeatz was it's called the Font Bar at Hertfordshire, which is quite a well-known student bar back in the day, super famous, and it was doing like, I think before I took it, was doing like 60 or 70 people a night. First event we did was 400, which was such a huge improvement.
So they're trying to,
where the hell did all these brown people come from? Do you know what I mean?
Did they try to give you a job for life?
Yeah, mate, it was, no, from that, I think we were all shocked. Even me, I was like, I don't know who's going to turn up. And then like 400 people in there were like, oh shit, okay, this could maybe be a thing. I think that first night was Punjabi Hit Squad, actually. And it's the first time I'd met Dio Rav or anything as well. And
what year was that, Prash?
Pardon?
What year was that?
That was 2007.
Okay.
2007. So yeah, so met D and Rav then, and then the next event was Jags client. Jags obviously with Sachi, who was on Desi Hits, who was my eventual housemate, good friend of mine, and then from there, yeah, him, then PBN, and then it just sort of started rolling on a month-to-month basis. Did some like local events, and then yeah, just from there, from year to year, just exploded, and numbers went from 400 to 800, 1,000, 1,200, and that was until about 2012. Where it was just sort of booming. I would say it was the number one student union, like Desi music brand in the country by a mile. And then 2012 hits, and I think 2011, 2012 was when it started getting sticky for clubs for Asian music. There were lots of events where there were just riots and fights everywhere across the UK, and venues and licensing were trying to phase those kind of events out. They were becoming less and less popular. It was becoming harder and harder to find venues that wanted to do it because of the number of just crazy incidents that were happening. And I was getting to that point where I just graduated uni, and I was like, I think I'm going to call off this for a bit. I need to find an actual job now. And so, I went on hiatus. I tried to do a few different things, including working in some PR, working for opening like some well-known restaurant and lounge and chains and things like that, and working some clubs on the side still, because as anyone who's a promoter knows, you can't ever stop promoting. Like it's like a little one to be like, oh, let me just do my like weekend events and just during the week I'll do work or whatever, but it's always there in the background. And then eventually we came back full circle in 2016 and restarted it in London, and it's just been crazy ever since, really.
What do you put down to 2012 to be? Would you say it was a changing of the guard in terms of different people leaving? And
I think there was a lot of things, bro. Like I think musically, I think the industry was completely stuck in a rut. Same shit was just coming out all the time, same sort of sound. Nothing was really evolving. I think people were getting tired of that as well. And the quality of the crowd was diminishing bit by bit. I feel like I remember like lots of times when I went out and it was like 95% dudes at every club, Asian club gig you went to. And that's not survivable for any club brand, forget any type of music. But it was just getting to that point where it was like, if you thought like Desi night, you'd be like, nah, fuck I'd rather not go, if I'm honest. And that was the problem. There was just a lack of quality control. There was so many factors involved, and ultimately, like I said, it was really the fighting at multiple up and down the event. Look, I'm not going to point fingers at one particular event. It's all of them. Like, so many of them had it, and a lot of it's not even down to the promoters, unfortunately. A lot of it's just the fact that that music was attracting that type of person, and no matter where you put it, people would seek it out. They'd have a few drinks in them, they get their chest muscles up, and they start bench pressing each other on the dance floor. And it was just like, what can you do? Like, there's within reason at a certain point, the promoters like, what can I do? So there had to be, I think it was much needed a pause, during those times. It was like, hey, I think we all need to take a breather here. I think there were some events going on between 2012 and 16, but not really at the sort of level that it's at now again, so.
Did you feel that the talent also started drying up and people just kept seeing the same people again and again and again?
A little bit. Yeah. I feel like there's a reason, right? There's a reason that it gets dried up, because if you've seen the same PA everywhere you look, you're like, what the fuck am I doing? Like, and that's why the scene is thriving right now, because not only do you have so much talent in the UK again, but you've got talent everywhere, India, North America, like all over the shop, and everyone can travel. Everyone has there are venues that are happy to accommodate them, and there's a scene that everyone can really tour in again, which is what part of what we worked really hard to get back to since 2016, which is create a brand that eventually reinvigorates the scene. And I feel like we've been pretty instrumental in that, because I think without us plugging away for the last sort of 3 years, you wouldn't now have the other sort of promoters, copycats and brands, and and I'm not saying that to slate, it is what it is, but that's what a scene needs for it to thrive. You need your sort of big names, you need your copycats, you need your underground scene, which I see a lot of now, which is amazing. I was just talking about Bobby with that the other day, Bobby Friction. We were saying, like, it's so sick to see like these underground things happening now, whether it's daytimers or whatever. I take real pride in that. Like, I don't feel like it's a competition in the slightest. I think everyone can win. There's enough events for everyone to go to now. So yeah.
When you were coming up to that 2012 decision, I'm kind of going back to it, because I kind of remember that, because in Birmingham there was a few events that were going on, and there was a few big incidents that happened, and fighting. I think the bottles getting smashed, all these kind of, and it was just that kind of maturity kind of point. How did you, like, what was the decision making process to say that it's definitely got to stop now, rather than just cooling it?
It was so at that time.
Were you starting to lose money on gigs or anything?
No. I wasn't starting to lose money. So at that time, I had a different partner in the business initially, and I just kind of got to that point where I was like, the juice ain't really worth the squeeze, man. Like, the effort we're going through, and we weren't having riots at our gigs, but you'd have, like, the usual scuffle or whatever, handbags. But it was more to just do with me just sort of feeling a bit flat. Like, I'm looking around, like, who am I going to book? Like, what is there left? I think I won't name the last lineup that I did, but put it this way, I wasn't happy with it. I was put together in a way where I was like, I'm literally left with no one else to book. And I remember watching the event happening and being like, I'm really not enjoying this. And when the fun's taken out of it for me, that's when I'm like, fuck this, because you don't do this stuff. You don't stay out till 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning because it's a job. You stay out because you love doing it. And it just got to that point where I was like, I'm not enjoying this anymore. And it had been coming for a little while. I did a few that I just kind of felt like, this is not what I envisioned for it, and therefore I think maybe I can afford to take a pause. And like I said, I was doing other work as well in the meantime, so for me, I just kind of felt like, no, I think we'll take a break. And it wasn't well received in terms of that decision, but it was kind of like, all right, well, let's see how it goes, and maybe we'll revisit it in 4 months or 6 months. And we revisited 4 years later. So yeah.
One of the key skills that you need to have is in terms of a booking talent, really, in terms of like knowing when to kind of book an artist where, and well, not necessarily a lot of companies probably will just stay kind of regional in their area or the city, or kind of venture out slightly, but you've got very strong presence nationally. If you want, you can flex your muscles anywhere, really, in that sense. How do you gauge the kind of demand in that particular area for an artist, and then how do you manage their ego to say, when they come approach you and say, I can do it, and you're like, mate, no, you can't?
Well, I think we've got our finger on the pulse, which is really important. So like I listen to a lot of music, a lot. I listen to when it all comes out, even if I pretend like I don't to a lot of people, I do. I'm always listening out. I'm always looking ahead. Like, Harps, Core and I, we created a brand just before the pandemic that we did for a year called Native Sounds. And it was about finding emerging Asian artists. So just putting new talent out there. It was a completely selfish endeavor because we were just like, mate, there's no events like this at all for people to attend or for artists to come and just sort of become a community. So we were like, let's do it ourselves. And we did that out of our own pockets, man. We're making no money from it. And it's a thankless task because it's not like it's like 1,000 people come to see an artist. It was probably like, at top end, our biggest one was like 200 people and the smallest ones were like 60 people. But for us, we always thought that in order to progress the scene, all these facets have to be there, whether it's podcasting, whether it's open mics, whether it's the smaller club gigs, or the live shows, or the concerts, or the touring. All of those things have to be present. A healthy broadcasting station and all the other stations along with it, all those things have to be functioning for a scene to do well. Some of them aren't. They're still not really firing on all cylinders, which I'm sure we'll get to later, but all of those things have to be happening. And in order for us to do that, we have to sort of know musically what's going on. So I pride myself on knowing what's happening in the UK at the moment. I pride myself on having that finger on the pulse internationally as well. And, I'm well aware of what the different types of demographics there are throughout the UK, whether it's Birmingham, where there's such a hardcore sort of Desi following, and even the nuances between Birmingham and Coventry and Wolverhampton are so different, let's say, and Nottingham and Leicester. And Leicester's like quite a Bollywood sort of crowd, and Manchester and all over, like we've done gigs in Glasgow now with teams up there. We've touched Manchester before, Leicester, Nottingham, and even South Coast as well now. So it's totally different everywhere. It really is. Like London is such a mixed bag as well, even for us. So we have multiple different brands, like we have Bollywood brands, because the Desibeatz is recognized as a sort of Punjabi and commercial brand. And if we play more than 40 minutes of Bollywood, people are like, what are you doing? So we have to create a home for that too, but we can't not play that because we want to be a South Asian music brand and sort of touch on everything too. So it's not easy balancing everything, and you're never going to you're not going to keep everyone happy. But there's a lot of research that goes into things before we ever decide to do an event. We never just say, oh, well, Ricky's releasing an album. Okay, let's just put him on the stage and just see if 300 people turn up. It doesn't work like that. And it's the lazy things like that, which is why there's loads of promoters that flop loads of events, because they don't do the research. They just think it's easy. They see us doing it and they say, oh, let's copy their logo and take a club and just put these 4 DJs on and we'll get 1,000 people. No, you won't, mate. You won't. You ain't going to get close to it. So there's a hell of a lot of hard work in that.
So when you got that research, because you're not just getting the pressure from necessarily kind of record label or someone or a management or anything that way. An actual artist will say, come on, man, get me gigs. Yeah. And they'll say, get me on a tour, get me doing over here. How do you kind of deal with egos in the industry?
I tried to avoid that question, but I didn't really. But no.
I you know it is. You know why? Because I made a note of it.
No, honestly, I'm lucky that everyone knows how honest and blunt I am.
Yeah.
Lots of artists, all of them, in fact, know that with me, I'm not going to blag it with them and be like, yeah, bruv, soon. Like, I'm not like that. I will tell you if it makes sense and if it doesn't, because it's a business at the end of the day. They're not saying, get me gigs, but I'll come perform for free. They're saying, get me a gig and pay me for it. So if I'm going to pay them for it, I have the discretion to say to them whether they're going to sell enough tickets or not, right? And I have to be honest like that. And I think I used to put a lot of credit and saying, well, if we get this artist, we'll sell X tickets. But I don't really do that anymore because I've been told off by many people and they've said, mate, you don't need to do artists. You could just do your brand as a night and people will come. The artist is sort of the cream, the cherry on the top sort of thing of that, So if you have that there and you put the two things together, then it creates magic in a sense, which, for example, with Frenzy, who we know and we've been working with for a little while, the synergy between his brand and our brand is incredible. And he's never done a show with us which has been empty. They've all been not even empty, not even half full. They're like 80 or 100% full, no matter what we do, no matter where we go. And that's what happens when you have two great brands positioned by each other. So, when I speak to artists and they say to me those types of things, like I've had lots of artists approach me and say, oh, bro, like, can we do like a 5-6 city tour? And I have to turn around to them and say, listen, man, you ain't going to sell 5 or 6 cities. Maybe you'll do 3 cities, and maybe with our brand, and maybe if it's 200 cap venue and we have the right thing, it can hit. And there's nothing wrong with that, because if it's just about you, then that's 200 people that have come to see you. And mate, I'm telling you, most of the other artists, they can't even get 200 people to come and see them in any city. So you have to understand where your position is in the market. Don't take it sensitively, but figure out how you can build upon that. And that's what we try and do, really. Like, I try not to be dishonest. I say, hey, mate, maybe on this first one, you're going to be 200 people. But if we get it right and the night pops, next time you go back there, maybe it's 400 people because another 200 people have said, fuck, I should have been there. I should go to that. And that's how you build it.
Yeah, I think because, I mean, you said something really interesting before, which was about knowing about the pulse and knowing what the demand is. And I kind of had this question with Tony, and I think a little bit maybe with Bobby Friction and Harps as well from a BBC angle, which was that you've got a lot of the artists that are coming over with massive views.
Yeah.
And you've got to somehow kind of go, you have to kind of go through that and actually say, I don't care about your views. I need to know how many people are going to turn up through the door.
Yeah.
But how do you kind of see through?
How do you see through that? Yeah, it's not easy. Luckily, so far we've been good. We haven't picked any bad ones, and I think overall my judgment on the matter in terms of having a look and seeing like, is this bullshit or not, like, has been pretty good. I can say that, like, even, I mean, I'm sure you know, about the last 3 months, pretty much every singer from India has been in the UK, either on gigs that haven't happened because they've been cancelled, or harassing for events or to jump on through people I know for our events, for example, and things like that. And I just kind of feel like I knew everyone was here. I've got loads of nights on. If I wanted to get them on, I would have got them on, but I didn't because it didn't feel like they'd pull. And also you can see from the judgment of the gigs they do choose to pick initially that they're not credible as an artist or as a team. And that's really hard because some of them are really talented and they've just got stupid people around them that are just either money hungry or they just care about themselves or their friends that they know in the UK, but there's no longevity there. And that's a message for every artist. Like, you have to be really careful about what you're picking. You shouldn't end up on a bloody ladies' night if you're an artist that should be selling out arenas. Facts. Don't, you know, and that's not a knock on anyone. That's just facts. Some of these acts, they will just take any money. They don't think about longevity. And that's why, you know, I was just having this conversation yesterday with someone. They were like, bro, Desibeatz, yeah, as much as like he's not my kind of music or my style necessarily, bro, the guy is still getting paid for performances and he's still out there, he's still gigging nonstop. And there's something to that. No matter what you want to say, there's something to that. And most of these guys right now, they're going to be flashes in the pan. You're going to see them again. They've already had their glorious one tune, and that's it. It's done for them already. And there's only a certain amount of time you can survive being that person. You have to adapt. You have to be productive, put music out constantly, and people can see through when you've got 500k followers and you've only got 26 likes on your picture. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just. Like,
I think it's a little bit harsher than that. If I'm honest, if you like, if you've got X amount of million views, you've got X amount of likes, let's say, and you're struggling to sell tickets at a gig, like literally in Bangla capitals of like Birmingham or in London.
Yeah.
And you can't, you ain't got 150 tickets or 200 tickets that can be sold. Like, who's going to actually pull you to a side and say, look, something ain't right here. You like, I think people have caught on, they can see through what's going on and like have that reality check.
I don't know, man, because I mean, there's 2 guys over right now touring. They've got a UK tour. Their first gig did like 200 tickets. Their second one's in, I think, somewhere local in maybe South or whatever. That maybe be busy. Maybe that'll have like 400, 500 people tops of sort of like a freshy crowd. And then I think there's one more in maybe Leicester after. I'm sure that'll be like 200-300 people max as well. Now, both of these guys have got combined 3 or 4 million followers on Instagram. Their main songs are probably combined between them got maybe 500 to 600 million views. And yet they are probably more content the fact that they got flown in on business class than anything else. There's no other quality control or obsession with what's going on with my career right now. Am I happy to be performing in like a local hall? Don't know. I don't know if they really care, you know. That's the thing, because I can tell you the artists we work with that care, like Sherry, for example, or I don't know, Zach Knight or Frenzy or bloody, you know, like some of these guys do care. They do inquire. They do say to me, So what venue are we doing it in? Like, how does it look? How many people are in there? You know, what's the sound like in there? All the sort of key things you want an artist to ask you, which shows that they're actually giving a shit about where they're going to perform. Prophecy, same thing. Before they came over here, I sent them schematics of every venue that we were doing. What does it look like? How many people are expecting? You know, what kind of production are we looking into? Blah, blah, blah. Can we have rehearsals? This is your rehearsals. This is your sound checks. These kinds of things show you, okay, here's someone who gives a shit about the performance, how they're going to sound to a crowd, how it's going to look, all of that. And most of those other artists we've talked about, or the ones that are here or coming from India, they don't care. They're just like, RG, what time? Stage time? Okay, cool. A bottle of Jameson, safe, done. That's it. Let's go. That's it.
Do you feel like in a way that not having that kind of Desi background as your primary kind of function, your interest in music gives you this benefit to kind of step out of that and be more subjective in terms of saying, I can make these decisions a lot more clearer because I haven't got a bias?
I mean, yes and no. I mean, I don't feel like I think maybe that's you're probably looking at it a way that I don't really see myself in, but I don't really think that I don't feel like I have a bias. I just feel like I look, you know business. What? I really try to treat even the artists I work with, like not like a fan, like I try to treat them as just a person that makes amazing music that I want to do a good job for. So I think I'm hiring you because I want you to go away from this event and be like, fuck, I need to work with him again, or I need to work with that brand again because it was sick. Like Sherry, for example, hadn't done a proper London show ever, really, done some banqueting halls, but you know, count that shit. So he came and he did like Fire, which is a well-known club. You can't, you know, Simon's done a few for me there, Frenzy, and you know, it's 1,400 people or something. He's just like, what the fuck? Like he walks in and it's just absolute pandemonium, and he gets to see, okay, this is what it can look like. You know what I mean? And we're already talking about doing the next shows, and every artist, even Gary, you know, he entrusted us with his only decent UK shows, really, apart from one that I think he did in Leicester. Everything else was pretty, you know what I mean? And there's something to say about coming and working with someone and seeing that quality. And I try not to be biased ever. I don't let a personal dislike get in the way of business. Believe me, I have a few, but I don't let that get in the way. I still work with some artists that maybe the personal relationship is cordial at best, but end of the day, we understand from a business perspective, us and you make money together, and that's what really matters. So,
because like as you know, we've done a few gigs together and stuff.
Yeah,
but I hardly ever go. I only ever went. I'm not that one.
We talk all the way up to it, and then we talk after it.
I'm just saying, like, how are you? Okay, everything's fine. Okay, see you later. We'll talk later. But I got to that. I had that kind of old man syndrome. It was at Camden. It was the Camden Markets. It was ages ago, and I came in there first, and I couldn't believe that I'd never been to a Bhangra gig that rammed.
Yeah,
I could not believe there was that many people within there, and then I was like, you know, I just couldn't.
It's a sensory overload as well, isn't
it? Yeah, it was, because like even to get onto the stage, and then it was the first time I saw like you actually, like a promoter giving, I don't give a fuck who you are, get the F off stage, get off stage. And I think I was in there. I think everyone got it. It was just
that's cool.
No, it
wasn't just you.
No, it wasn't. It was everyone else, because you didn't. It was at that stage where there was just so many different artists. You didn't care who the artist was.
Yeah, because like, I think we had like 7 or 8 different people performing. Oh, it was. There's a Monday come with 7 Monday each. And it's just like,
and the thing is,
you know what I hate more than anything is the cluttered stage. Because for me, when you have the photos and the video and stuff, you look in and you just see this like sea of like people. It looks like a Mela or something. It just looks so bad and it looks shabby. And I know it's a club gig and people probably don't care. And I'm sure there's lots of people that will listen to this that are other DJs that have come and played for me, and they're like, yeah, he was a bit of a prick and he told us to get off stage. But it's just like, I think like this. If I hire a DJ, whoever you are, whether you're a big star or you're just starting out, that's your moment for you to shine, not for your fucking mates to be your backup dancers, not for your boys to sort of hold your water. You know, everyone's a child, you know what I mean? Like that, no one's there to hold each other's balls or their bags. Like they're cool, he can get on with it. This is what he does. So let him do that. Let him have his shine in his moment, because that's what we're all. The crowd are here to see them. They're not here to see you in the background. So let them do that. You can go. You should go off stage as a mate and film their performance and enjoy it, because you know them. So support your mate, from the crowd and make that noise for them. Don't be behind them like, I hate that.
Isn't that the difference in terms of what you were saying compared to others, where you've got that production value? The worst thing you've done is if you've spent time doing schematics, getting the extra AV and getting all the sound and everything, and then it's just getting flooded and crowded out.
Yeah, I mean, look, to be honest, it doesn't happen too often, especially when we have like the main production going, because I become much more of a dickhead to everyone. I'm like, I don't care what anyone's going to say to me. Like, I will be that, and I shout at everyone. I know it, but at the end of it, I think everyone appreciates when they look at the photos, when they look at the video, when they come see their artist and they just see their artist and they see the production, they can enjoy the show properly. They're like, fucking, that's a great show, you know? And that's what I love at the end of the day. For me, the next day is going through the tweets, going through the Instagram, the DMs, and just being, you know, amazing night, sick night, 101 snaps from people and Insta and this and that. And that's the joy of it. So yeah, if I have to be a prick to people when those things happen, I'm happy to do it, because it doesn't matter, you know? It's a thankless task.
Oh, of course, and you know, at the end of the day, it's winning at the moment, so you're doing something right. In terms of kind of like you know, you're doing a lot of these, you're constantly doing shows. It's absolutely rammed. You're in some unbelievable venues, especially around central London as well, and in that area. When do you get fine to identify the future talent and then how do you separate to say, yeah, this is the person that I think we can do something, and maybe not this one?
Well, it's tough, because I think only in the last sort of couple of years, even during pandemic, really, have we really actually started to see some actual new, fresh talent emerge. And, you know, no matter what, you're not going to make everyone happy. So I could put in a bunch of emerging artists on that no one's ever heard of, and people will be like, oh, you know, I wish that you'd had like a well-known big name on there. And when I put a big name on, people say, oh, you don't give the new talent a chance. But we tried our best to balance it. Like I said earlier about the native sound thing, for example, that endeavor was just so we could have a platform. And I wanted to create a feeder system. So you have an emerging artist platform, you have your sort of club shows, and then you have your live gigs, and then you've got your festivals. And what you want an artist to do, and this is for any artist, is go through that transition process from native, so they go from their acoustic sessions or their live sessions and their open mic nights to go into a club show if they've got that type of music that can fit, right, which is a bit more mass market. Then from there you go to concert, so you become a concert support artist. You're going on, you're touring, you're seeing new audiences, you're building your profile and brand from there. And then from there you go to the festival scene. You start as a supporting slot in the beginning and then build it, and as your material builds and gets bigger, you go to being the headliner at each of those gigs rather than someone that's a support act. And you have to follow that to get your stage experience in, to develop your sound, to meet new people, to grow your brand, and to get your fan base bigger. So our aim was to essentially do that. Then obviously the pandemic's come and it sort of knocked us back, but we're going to work back on bringing that showcase night, because for us that was the best, that was the most joy I got of any events that I do. It was literally just meeting new artists, connecting them with other talent, and seeing them go and make music with each other. I was just like, man, if they go and make a hit, amazing, you know, like I don't want any credit for that. And lots of the artists that we featured in are getting picked up by like Virgin Records and things like that. And I know a lot of people are probably listening to that and thinking, well, you're an idiot, you should have signed them, you should have done that. But bruv, it's not my field. And I'm not the kind of person that says over promises and I'll be like, yeah, I'll try and do that for you and then let people down. I'd rather be like, this is not my forte. What I can do is connect you with the right people, because I'm not selfish and greedy, and I get that if you end up winning, we all win. So I know that sounds super cliche.
No, it's not, because I think there's actual evidence in what you're saying. If people have followed you and taken a note of you, especially in the last couple of years, I've seen that more sort of that artist liaison, where you've tried to put things together and do that, rather than the easy job, relatively speaking, in terms of is just to do the gigs and put out. But you've definitely taken active side of going more kind of artist liaison to put things in.
So I'll give you a perfect example, literally just off this prophecy tour. So Pross team was in touch with me and they were like, look, like we discussed about doing a live band. And so we were like, okay, how does this look? So we don't want to go like with the full band, because maybe it'll slow the pace too much, but let's go with drums, let's go with a keyboard or guitar, like ideally. So they said to me, like, who do you think? And I was like, thinking, and I'm like, okay, there's this guy Harps and I had on Native Sounds called Luke Massey. He's really well known in the scene, but not really a name out there. he came and actually did like a frontman performance for us as a leading guy, but he's actually a really amazing producer and musician. He's actually on a Rackstar's band as well. So Rackstar started doing shows with bands now, and Luke's part of that band. So I was like, man, he's amazing. Like, if I can connect them together and something can happen, then great. He ended up being our keyboardist, and he also bought a guitar, so a keyboard with a guitar sort of type thing. And man, just killed it to another level. And the pride for me to see my guy there, and you know, all the musical synergy in that room, like on the rehearsal session, and even, you know, the artist saying to me after, man, that guy, like, amazing find, right? And you know, them hopefully making him a part of their future setups, bro. Like, for me, amazing. Like, I'm just happy that we're able to put that type of talent in a room and to see magic happen. You know what I mean? So I have no like greed or pride over that. Like, for me, I'm just not pride in that sense. Like, I'm proud of him, you know, and if we can keep making things like that happen, then great.
So that new school, that new the future kind of promotion in terms of you need that anyway to even sustain those the live music and live gigs as well.
Yeah. There needs to be a place for all of that, and like, there's, again, like I said, there's not still now, even South Asian artists, there is no plug for live music or live sessions at open mic. So, you know, like I said, we're going to bring that back because it was a great endeavor. But I hope that other people are listening that want to do stuff like that in their regions, whether it's Leicester or Birmingham or Coventry or Manchester or whatever, and can find a way to do similar things, because we need it. We need that access point for all artists to be able to come to and become a community. And there just really isn't enough of it at the moment. So, and that stuff is what we're just kind of missing at the moment, because the live event scene is now thriving pretty much. You know, concerts are back, live shows are back, you know, bearing the Omicron variant or whatever it's called. And then, you know, clubs are back and booming. So we just need that entry level point for real artists to come into and connect with people. And once they can do that, that cold flow will be back again.
I want to get onto a little bit in terms of kind of your mainstream and that, but has there ever been any points, do you, looking back on in your career, so where you are so far, of any kind of gigs that you've regretted, or the biggest learning points?
Sure, loads, man, loads. Yeah. I think before the year prior to the pandemic, we had like a run of like pretty much a year where just pretty much every month, like one event would just go wrong, like whether it was just a flop gig, or you know, we had one where we did Mankirat Olak in Windsor, and I never worked with the club before. I knew of them. You know, Windsor's kind of fairly local to me. I'd been connected to them by a DJ that works with us, and I thought, you know, should be fine. They'd made all the right noises in terms of being organizationally ready. They were aware of the number of people that were going to come to their gig. We sold under that limit, even though I was told like, oh, you can do 800, 900 people. We did like 650 tickets. So we're like, let's give it a little room, you know, don't want to overram it, blah, blah, blah. And the venue, on the day we turn up, and they're like, okay, we're going to have 12 security. I'm like, cool. Arrived, they got 3 security. I'm like, uh-oh. And then I'm like looking, there's like no barrier set up. And I'm like, man, it's like 8:30, event's opening at 10. Fuck am I going to do? And I'm calling the venue manager. Oh yeah, mate, I'm out at the moment. Like, I'll be there in a bit. And it's just like gone to shit. And I'm like, I've got an hour to open. What am I going to do? So I'm talking to security guy, and I'm like, hey man, like, get some more security on. He's like, mate, what are you talking about? Like, this 6 of us will be enough. I'm like, no. 6 people is not enough. In 650, 700 people, there's just no way. And yeah, within about the first half an hour of doors opening and the queue going bloody all the way down the road, I could see the security guy's face. I looked at him and he looked panicked, like, you know, nervous. That's not what you want to see from your head of security. No. Yeah, and I was like, fuck, what are we going to do? And they ended up letting in, let's say, like half the people, so maybe 350, 400 top, no, about 350, and then 300 people were outside going mental, you know. And then inside, imagine 6 security trying to hold a door with 300 people outside, and then trying to control a club with 400 people inside, with a live performer of such a well-known name about to go on stage. So, I mean, that event, just when you say that to me, that event really sticks out to me, because for me, that was like probably my like lowest point in terms of events, because I felt like we'd done everything right, but the things that had gone wrong were kind of out of our control, and it just made us look like shit and disorganized. But you know, what can you do? Like,
how did you have the conversation with the manager the next day then about it?
They just went cold, man. They were just like, they didn't accept any fault. They were just like, you know, whatever. And we just kind of said, all right, well, we're not going to do business with you. To be fair, the venue shut like 3 months after. So I mean, it's probably a beginning of the end for them as it was, but you know, all that did was, from a learning curve perspective, you know, just kind of teach me to really be more and as thorough as possible. Don't take any risks when it comes to venues. I mean, we hadn't really taken a lot, but that was definitely one where I should have just looked at it twice in hindsight and just said, never done events there before. Maybe go 2 or 3 weeks in a row to all their events and just see how they're rolling. But, you know, as you said at the start of this podcast, I'm so bloody busy. Where am I going to have time to go to 3 weeks worth of events in one place when I'm in London 24/7 doing events, or Birmingham, or wherever it is? So, you know, these things happen, bro. And like with the volume of events we do, it's unfortunately going to be a case where when you're dealing with humans and human error, shit's going to go wrong sometimes. And you just have to I feel like being honest and putting your hands up and being like, it's our fuck up, is really important. And the next day I remember going and putting a post on my personal socials, on our company socials. I mean, we refunded every single person that didn't get in. We were even refunded some people that were inside that just had a shit experience, that were like, it was too busy, I couldn't get drinks on time, or blah, blah, or whatever. We just put our hands up and said, look, completely our mistake. What can we do? Like, you know, we take complete responsibility and it won't happen again. And that was it. You move on, because you can't stop. The world keeps turning. There are other events going on. Like literally the same night, I had 1,200 people or something at another club in London. We had a Bollywood night going on. So while my partner's like sending me messages being like, bro, this night's going amazing, I'm like, bro, I'm having like a mental breakdown right now. It's mashed up here. And you know, you have to laugh at it. I remember one point just sitting down in the club and one of my mates comes over and he just looked at me and just put his hand on my shoulder. And he's a big, unemotional, like hard nut looking dude. I remember putting his hand on my shoulder and just being like, bro, we're gonna get through this. And I was like, thank you, man. It was all I needed, but it was
so you should have got him on the fucking doors, and it'll be security.
No. So it was. This is how that was. He took that break to come and comfort me while he was simultaneously holding the stairs at the VIP and being like, if you come up here, I'm pushing you down the stairs to people. So you know, it was a mess. But like I said, like, bro, I've been going to clubs myself for so many years and seen it as a customer, or gone to live events and seen it as a customer, whether it's a venue being understaffed or this and that. And unfortunately, shit happens. Like, what can you say? Like,
have you ever had the reverse, in terms of where you thought this gig is going to be shit, and then all of a sudden, bang, it's gone crazy? Because I remember when speaking, I think we had a conversation with Frenzy at one point where we were going. You know, like London, everyone buys the tickets online. It's a lot more ordered. It's a lot more cultured. It's a lot more structured. And Birmingham is all about on the door. So how do you prepare for that?
Birmingham is like the most anxiety-inducing events, bro. It's just mad, because you just never know. Like, I'll give you the perfect example. Literally this weekend, we had the after party for Prophecy, right? And this is like a pulling the curtain, peek behind the curtain moment. So on Monday or Tuesday, I was looking at my partner and I was like, bro, we got to pull this gig, man. It is looking terrible. Like, we'd only done like 30 tickets or something.
The Prophecy one?
Obviously, after party.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
So the show was sold out. The show's sold out. The after party, we had doing a club called Bamboo. And I was like, bro, this is looking bad. Like, and you know, for us, we don't mind taking a financial hit if it's going to be busy, and if the party's going to be good, we'll take the hit on finance, whatever. Like, even if we've got to put lower price tickets or whatever, you have to do that sometimes for PR, you know. But I was like, the tickets were reasonable, but they were just not flowing, and I'm like, God, what are we going to do? And he was telling me, oh, bro, cancel it. And I was like, no, wait it out. I was ignoring his messages about it, and I was like, just wait it out. Maybe tomorrow.
So what are you telling Prophecy at the same time? Oh, if it's cool, man.
So he's not performing at the after party.
Okay.
Desi performing on there. We had AJD. We had, and just like our residents or whatever.
Yeah.
I haven't told them at this point. So it's like Monday and Tuesday, and I'm like, I don't want to tell them I'm pulling it. I don't want to tell my partner I'm willing to pull it. I don't want to tell the club I'm willing to pull it. I'm just sitting there like, maybe we'll wake up today on like 50, 60 tickets. Like, maybe it's hot. And it wasn't. And I was like, shit, we got to Wednesday. And I'm like, okay, it's time to have that like difficult conversation now. So he spoke to Ezu's team or whatever. It's terrible, but he's like, you know, look, man, I don't know how it's looking. We don't know what we're going to do. Spoke to the venue. They were like, I think we should just wait, because we've had loads of phone calls. And I'm telling you, Birmingham's a late crowd. And I hate hearing that. Like, I don't want to just see 300 people will turn up on the night, because you can't plan for that, right?
Yeah.
You as a venue even plan for that. But they're like, it'll be fine. We're used to this. And I'm like, all right, cool. Let's see. And we let it stay on, and it ended up being rammed on Friday. Like, it went from 30 tickets to like 300 people or whatever in there. And it was a great party and it was a great night. And, you know, Ezzy was on there. We ended up having Fateh performing. H. Dami came and did a bloody full set. And then Dips came and did a set. And it was just like a great night. Prophecy came and like, it was an industry thing. And we all got to hang out and chill and party or whatever. But I remember at the end, my partner was like, good decision to keep it on. And I was like, yeah. Like,
Yeah.
But you just never know, bro. You just never know how it's going to be. And yeah, like I said, Birmingham is just one of those cities you just can't plan for it. And to a degree, you have to be so certain on the product you're putting in, because I mean, I've literally just seen it, you know, this last few months where people have put on huge lineups and they've done like 150, 200 people. And it's just like, I've looked at the product and known that they're going to do that number. And I'm thinking, fucking hell, mate, like, I don't know how you're going to go for this. And then when you see it actually happening and unfolding, it's a horror story. Yeah. And unfortunately, those kind of gigs really do a lot of damage for us as promoters. And it doesn't have to be my gig for it to do damage for me, because it's still a niche scene, bro. Like, you know, going out to Asian gigs is still a niche scene. There's not a lot of there are a lot of promoters now, but there's not a lot of quality gigs anymore. And every crap gig makes one or two customers be like, I ain't going to Asian gigs anymore. They don't care whether it's Desibeatz or Ricky Entertainments or whatever it is. Like, they will look at the Asian gig and be like, fuck going to Bhangra gigs anymore. I'm just going to stick to the club that I know, or my local be at one or whatever it is that I get in for free and get my 2-for-1 cocktails, because I ain't taking a risk on it. So, you know, that's the overall thing with it.
And you know, you are one of the leading brands in terms of to try and have that conversation with you, like, oh, I want to, you know, as an artist, want to be on your gigs, and have you manage it with that trust value, that brand values there. Have you ever looked at a gig that you let pass and think, shit, we should have had that?
No, not really. No, I don't obsess too much about stuff like that. Like, I think we've always tried to just do our own thing, man. Like, I don't call other, like, for example, I don't call other promoters and be like, when are you doing a gig, so I can like plan my gig around you. I'm just like, we've got a good product, it's shit hot, let's just put it out and it will do its damage. And I know that's kind of a crazy way when there's so much money on the line sometimes, but I just sort of am so certain of what we do that I feel like I don't need to plan for other people. Yeah, don't get me wrong, there's loads of gigs I'd love to do. Like, I'm not saying to you right now that, I would never love to do Diljit in concert or something. Yeah, of course, man. Things like that. Like, I look at those things and I know like the team behind it. And I've actually spoken to them like on and off quite a lot. And I say to them, man, I just fucking admire what you do. And it inspires me in terms of a production level or a capacity level to say, fuck, like, that is achievable. We can go for that and we can do that. So, no, I never think I wish I could do that. I just think, how can we do something better than that?
Yeah, because you could see it now. Like, Diljit bought, there was a fucking lion on stage, you know, that big thing.
Game-changing
and then you had like AP Dylan's, their tour getting sold out in record amount of time. Prophecies went in record amount of time as well. So, like, is that the risk now of, you know, what I'm trying to give you is your worst case scenario where your production has gone so crazy, it's in Birmingham, like the risk of margin now is getting bigger.
No, I don't think for me, I don't believe that. When it comes to live, it's totally different. Club events is full risk, full seat of your pants, you know, brown trouser time. You're going to sit there, you're going to be nervous, you're going to be shitting it for the most part. But the live stuff, I just feel like people that do the live events, like, I know there's people that you mentioned, I know the people behind all those tours, and everyone is shrewd, everyone knows what they're doing, everyone is experienced. There are no idiots that are doing the real actual quality tours and gigs, whether it's Rahat or Sonu Nigam or whatever, or, you know, Diljit or AP or whoever, or us, or like my main guys, E3 UK, you know, any of these people we've just named. None of these people are stupid. We're all calculated people. We won't take those risks. We can identify what makes sense in the capacity sense. And I think that you can see by the results of how busy our gigs are, that we're in the know of what we're doing. Look at E3 in Dubai.
I was literally going to say that.
Man, I'm so proud of the guys. Like, you know, we were, you know, talking about them when they're putting everything together. And you know, believe me, the balls of steel to go and do something like that, especially during a pandemic, is is really admirable. And they're the only people that could do it, bro. I promise you, like, you know, hats off to the team. You know, I know they're all shy guys. They don't like people saying the name, so I'm not going to. But everyone knows who's behind that team. And believe me, like,
they're on my Man United list, on my team list.
Huh?
Yeah, they're on my Man United team list.
Yeah. Guys, like, it's a joy to work with them because behind the scenes, I'm sure you know all of us, and we're very similar. Like our mindsets, our goals, our visions, and man, like we have great conversations every day about the reality of this industry, and we've worked on so many great projects with them already, and it's just good to find like-minded people that we can collaborate with like that. So
Prash, in terms of like you know, you dominating this area, in terms of like going into mainstream, how is that an ambition in terms of like, I know you've already ventured there, you've already got a presence in a lot of the clubs in terms of mainstream. How far do you want to kind of progress that?
Being honest, not too much really, just because I feel like we're far from done in the Asian scene. I mean, we're dominating it yet to a degree, but you know, once you dominate a scene, there are, like I said, copycats and people that think that it's a quick, easy buck and blah, blah, blah. And there's going to be more of that as the world opens back up. There are going to be more gigs. There are going to be more promoters. And your seat is never safe at the table, you know? Like, you have to keep working for it. You have to keep putting out a quality product. So, and we have lots of goals of where we want to go to within the Asian gig scene. I mean, this is only our first tour. We want to do much more with that. There's some stuff that I want to talk about that we're going to do coming up over the sort of next sort of 18 months that I won't say, because as soon as I do, I know there are 100 people that are going to try and jump in the grave of it. But there are plans in place that we've already done. The things are already signed off that we're going to move into as things open back up again, that just sort of take it to another level, because there's, you know, the agency still has a lot to grow, a lot of growing to do. And I feel like it's important for us to be at the forefront of it, to lead the charge, and people like us and E3 and everyone to make sure the standards are always high and set and the bar is raised. So, yeah.
You know, in your downtime, then, in terms of like, you know, moving away from this, how do you? I know you're quite active in podcasting, and you do that. Are you involved in that side of work as well? Then
too much, not as much as I'd like to be. So I did some UFC related podcasts with my brother and his friends, which were just sick. Like, I love anyone who knows me or follows me knows that I love UFC and MMA. I've been following it for like nearly 15 years nearly. And it's just a passion of mine, like just watching it and seeing the sport evolve and grow and become so huge. And and to be fair, I think because I talk so much, that format of podcasting or conversation is just great. It's a great medium for me. I can sit and talk with you, and we can talk about any subject. We're talking about just music and gigs now. We can talk about UFC or music, and I have an opinion on everything. And I think it's really important to read widely and have opinions on everything, whether it's politics or the world or what's going on or whatever, you know, like it's important to be informed.
So we got we're recording this just before the Oliveira and Poirier fight. Who do you reckon who you got for that?
I've got Poirier for that. I just think he's and that's no knock on Oliveira, but I just think Poirier just looks like he's in the zone. Like, I feel like he's really assured and calm in his skill. I feel like he's got that sort of champion feel and look about him. But Oliveira is not one to be counted out, man. Like, look, he got knocked down and came back and knocked Chandler out, and it was amazing to see. And I think people underestimate his like technical level. His technical prowess is amazing. He's great everywhere, ground, boxing, and yeah, it's going to be an amazing fight. But I don't know, man. I just feel like Poirier's got that like beast in him, and I think he was the second best in the world after Khabib, and now Khabib's gonna just feel like he'll be back on top. I mean, he beat everyone else. Right?
Wait, who do you see 155 champion in 12 months' time?
Oh, that's a good one. Probably say Makhachev, to be honest.
Yeah, he's a dark. If you're gonna put money on someone, he's gonna be there.
It's just that Dagestani wrestling, man. It's just unbelievable. And I feel like Dariush is going to be a really interesting matchup for him, because Dariush is so comprehensive on the ground and as a grappler. And I think because he looks like so like kind of dour in his demeanor, people just don't give him credit for being so technically skilled. Dariush is amazing. And I think that if he can come out on top of Makhachev, then I think Dariush could probably win it, to be honest, because he just has those fundamentals down to a T, you know. But I don't know, man. Poirier is real good, and Makachev, if he can really take and just smash Dariush, then I think everyone's going to say, man, this guy's got it, you know.
Yeah, because they're talking about like today, some of the today's information. Well, every day's gossip, isn't it? It's just maybe Conor and Ferguson. I think Conor's days are done really in some ways. Yeah. And then you've got Gaethje still just kind of hovering around. And then the way,
like, I love Gaethje, but it takes just
think
damage
after the last fight with him and Chandler, you know, that was going to knock off years on your life.
It is hard to watch, man. Like, I love watching him, but he is a hard one to watch because it is just brutal is the only word to describe the way he fights. And it's just
that first round, I thought,
and you watch him like interviews after, and it's like he can't string sentences together, and you just worry for the guy because it's, you know, as a fan you love seeing that brutality, but like, man, like I don't know, I love brutality, but even for me he's a little too brutal, you know, like it's a little too violent.
Yeah, I mean, because even like with some of the Brits, I've got one of my best friends from school runs Fearless MMA, and Leon and Fabian Edwards train there, and Jake Hadley, who's just got his contract. So I normally, if I normally ring him and say, "Oh, what do you reckon? What do you reckon?" And he's like, he's
amazing. Like, listen, Rocky, amazing talent, phenomenal talent. Hasn't got the chance that he deserves.
I think he's been screwed, man.
Definitely. I think horrible. Unfortunately, when you haven't got that marketability for the US audience, you get a few points knocked off no matter what. And I feel like that Brummie accent is so bloody strong for him. It's probably cost him a little bit. And
look, it's nothing wrong with the Brummie accent, all right?
He's a good-looking dude, so it's not like he's
Do you know what it was? I reckon.
You know, so
you know that the final round with Nate.
Yeah.
If that never landed, I think it would be just a.
Oh yeah. I think that really did him a disservice.
Yeah.
Really, because it just gave people being like, Nate could have got him, you know. And it's a shame. It's such a shame because he had done so amazingly prior to that, really, and like he'd really shut him out pretty much. But you know, it's a game of what have you done for me lately, like most of these industries are, and it's a shame. But also, bro, I'm a huge fan of Usman, and I just think the guy just looks on just a different bloody level, man. Like he's just crazy. Like he's getting better and better, you know. Like let's be honest, like he really done. Like Colby and him, their fight again was great, but he was still the better man by a yard, really, and by a yard or two. So I don't know, man.
I think he's constantly injured as well. I remember hearing him doing a Rogan interview talking about how he couldn't like walk. He has to walk on grass.
Everything is shot. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't retire within a year or so, you know, because it is, I think that physical toll on him has been huge, and he's got a really huge payday just now of Covington. He could probably scrape one or two more big ones. Maybe he'll somehow find a way to fight Conor, because Conor can always just call that card and be like, I want to fight for the title, and no one's going to say no to him, especially Dana, because it's all about
and also in a way, if it weren't for Conor, some of these guys wouldn't be getting paid that one as well.
So you have to give him that, you know, homage or whatever. And if not, then he'll just go and fight Dustin or whatever, you know. So I think once Usman's had a couple of more paydays, don't be surprised if he says sayonara, because on top of that, he's a really good speaker. He's already done analyst work, and he could just jump into one of those roles without an issue, you know. So
I think with the right barriers and the right protective guarding, I think at one of your nights, because it's finishing about the same time, if there's a pay-per-view one, you could just have a little section out there just to put on UFC fights.
Man, I'd love that. I always found it hard. That was the hardest thing for me, like staying up for them, because it's like 3-4 a.m. here UK time. Usually I'm getting in from a gig at that point so I can catch the main card. But
I think it was the Chandler one. I think that was about 3-ish, wasn't it? Like after
I had a gig on that night. Literally.
I
was watching it on my phone.
Yeah, that's it. I came in and my missus was going, I was like, yeah, this ain't gonna last. I was like literally another 15 minutes because I want to watch it back again. I was like, it's a crazy fight.
I fell asleep. I got in, I think it was 2 fights before. I fell asleep. Their fight woke me up. Then I fell asleep, and then I watched the main 2 title fights that night. But yeah, it was a sick night there. It actually got me through all of that lockdown stuff, man.
Yeah, man.
It's pure vibes and entertainment, man. Just seeing them go at it, and you're like, okay, this can keep me going. The determination.
I mean, you said it at first when you're at school. You're a bit of a geek, and that there's the jiu-jitsu and the geek go together brilliantly. You know, human chess.
When I tell people I watch it, they're like, I don't know how you watch that. But I just loved it. I just love it, man. Loved it. And I got my brother into it. Now my brother's like even way more knowledgeable than me, doing podcasts on it, and he knows what, like, who the latest fighters are. I remember being like that guy. Now I don't even have time to watch half the cards.
Yeah. My older cousins, my mum, my sons, and that, they're the ones who kind of like watched it, and then I was always fleeting, and then as you're at home more and more, and you got your interests coming in, and
yeah.
pick you up.
Life gets in the way.
That's it. So this is the Bandwagon podcast. So I give an opportunity to all the guests on here in terms of bandwagons that they can jump on or jump off. So is there a bandwagon that you'd like to jump on or to jump off?
Ooh, bandwagon I'd like to jump on. Like, what kind of subject matter? I don't know.
I'll tell you one thing. I've said it. Nobody's actually ever jumped on a bandwagon. So, like, okay. Makachev's an easy example, isn't it? He says, like, oh, he's a bandwagon. Oh, yeah, I've always been this, I've always supported. I'm officially jumping on his bandwagon. Jumping off people, I don't know, they've gone off an artist, they've gone off a particular product. It could be anything. I generally leave it.
Name any artists I'm jumping on. Because that might be I good conversation when I come across them soon. I
generally get to the point. I probably have to start rephrasing it later on, really, in terms of like, is there anything that you want to kind of get off your chest, and this is an opportunity to kind of share?
Get off my chest. Look, man, to be honest with you, the only thing I can really say about a strong opinion or getting off my chest is just that this industry, like, this industry overall took a huge hit over 2 years. Artists, promoters, venues, restaurants, bars, nightclubs, hotels, whatever they are. And I think all of us coming together and supporting each other and getting a scene together again and being back out there is so vitally important. You got to take your ego out of it. You got to take your personal dislikes out of it. I have, even the past sort of couple of months, worked alongside people that maybe necessarily I wasn't the best of friends with. Maybe we had some history or things like that. But I felt like I needed to take my personal ego out of it for a second to say, what is best for the fans that want to come to gigs, for the artists, for the team behind it, whether it's a production company or even the bartenders, because end of the day, nightlife industry supports every tier, whether it's the people that work at a venue, whether it's the Uber drivers taking people home, whether it's the food van outside the venue. All these people work together somehow on the night. Do you know what I mean? And all I can say is I'm trying to be a better version of myself, like trying to be a less take things less personally and think more about the greater good of artistry and supporting artists and being out there to connect people in the right way. And I just hope that more people, because I know that probably 80% of the people that listen to your podcast are going to be people who relate to our industry in some way. And I just hope that everyone can try and strive to be the same. I'm trying to put my hand out there to reach out to people to say, hey, look, you might have heard that I'm a prick, but I'm actually not that bad. And we can sit around a table and do business together. And I think that if I can do that, anyone can, because if we're at the level we're at and you're really nice to say really great things about what we do, I try not to say that about ourselves and let other people do the talking for it. But if we are at that level we are and we can help people come up, whether it's new artist or DJ or whatever, then we want to be there to do that. And yeah, man, like, look, no access. There should be no access cut off for people. If you're a new artist and you want to get onto radio, find a way, man. Good music gets out there somehow. Good DJs find a way to get onto the right stages. And if we can do our best to open up our doors for that, then we want to do that.
Prash Suthersan, I really want to appreciate you, taking time out for this one. It was exactly what I wanted in terms of like, having this kind of sit down and give an opportunity for people to actually just see a little bit more behind the brands and the effort and the headaches, the learning, the passion, the interest from there. It's not just financials; those are the bonuses. Knowing that the product's right. And of course, there's always an open door for you on here, and we'll definitely be able to do some stuff in the future. So I really appreciate, man, taking this time out for me.
Thank you, man. No, look, I love what I do. That's all I can say. I'm sure I know you're exactly the same. We do very different careers, but we're in them for the right reasons, which is that we wake up every day being like excited about what's going to be ahead and what we can do and how we can improve things and leave them better than when we found them, and that's the most important thing. So this podcasting thing, I wanted to jump onto it for ages, and I was telling you, I was like, bro, I love it. I've seen the variety of guests, which is awesome, because you've got everything from MPs to musicians to just regular dudes that do amazing jobs in the community, and I love that. And man, more power to you too.
Cheers, man.
Definitely, man, keep it going.
Yeah, cheers, respect, man. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers, man.